Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Catholic Table Talk podcast, where everything Catholic is on the table. Once again, this week, I have a special guest with us again this week at the table. But first of all, thank you very much for liking, subscribing, and sharing our page, contact, or whatever you want to call it, on YouTube, Facebook, and if you look at the Instagram channel. So thank you for your continued support. And once again, if you have a show request, please feel free to message in the comments below or email the official email website or email, I should say, of Catholic Table Talk, catholictt@gmail.com. Now let's get on to our guest who has been on the show before. Episode 23 talked about Student Conference. So not too many episodes ago he was on, and he's back on this week to talk about ultrasound. So if you wonder what ultrasounds do, or maybe if you know what they are, him and me will talk about them and help you understand and learn more about them. So once again, welcome back to my brother, Sam Sauber.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to come back on the podcast.
Right. So a lot of people and really enjoying the Student Will talk. And also, but this is as a retreat and all that. This is like we're talking about every day, at least every weekend mass. You see altar servers up with the priest. So what are altar servers, and just give a description of them.
Yeah, sure. So altar servers, I mean, it's basically as the title says, they serve at the altar. Most of the time you see it as kids, usually like after they can receive communion, all the way up to generally high school age. But they serve at the altar and they aid the priest, and if there's a deacon, they aid those with celebrating the mass. So anything that the priest or the deacon needs, they help out and they help celebrate the mass.
Yeah, that's pretty much a good description of them. Um, and I think too, when there's an altar show up there, the mass flows a little. It flows a little better.
Exactly. I mean, and it varies by season, your jobs, but like it 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 goes a lot faster. And most of the time people don't really pay attention to the servers, which is what they're not supposed to pay attention.
Right.
But if you pay attention to the servers, it makes the mass go smoother, helps flow. I mean, you love celebrating the mass, and when it goes smoothly and you can just worship the Lord, it's pretty great.
And I think too, it just depends on how big the parish is at your parish. If it's a small one, it might not. I guess it might not really affect it as much because,
Mm.
But if you're in a bigger church and the witness table is farther away from the altar, then it really makes an impact, I think. So, what are the pros and cons of being altar soul? Because I mean, when we served, you and I served almost like every Saturday for like 2 years at our parish. Um, the pro was for me was being up at the altar like all the time. We were still in the sanctuary, right? As that which the parishioners were, but we got to help out the priest. So what is your pros and cons?
I was debating that, and I can't really come up with much for cons. The one I did come up with is worrying about messing up the mass and breaking up that flow we just talked about.
Right.
Because if you forget to, you know, bring the chalice over, you forget the holy water for a blessing. Just, it can be just something small, and it slows the mass down a little bit. And it's not that big of a deal. But for
Right.
me, that was always, that's probably my biggest con, is that it it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth because I was always afraid of that. But gosh, there's a lot of pros. I try to pick out some of the best ones. I don't know. Obviously, you get to serve the Lord, and you get to strengthen your relationship with Him. I mean, what is better than that? You
Right.
can do that going to mass, but you can go there and you can serve the Lord. You can help celebrate the mass with all the other parishioners that are attending that mass, and you get to help set up the altar. You get to help just well, heck, get to help with everything. But I mean, you get to build relationship with other parishioners. Like, I mean, you can relate to this when we were serving. I mean, you'd be back and before mass and you're talking, with lectors, Eucharistic ministers, sacristans, the musicians, just fellow parishioners coming up to say hi. And I mean, you really get to know those people. If you don't see them that much, maybe they're from a different town, and you really get to know them and you see them on a weekly basis. So that's a really good way to make good friends there. I mean, oh gosh, there's there's so many others, but I mean, you one thing that I never really thought of being an altar server, but one of the big pros is you get to learn how the mass works, why it's categorized the way it is, you know, different prayers, under different times, ordinary time, the Lenten season. Just there's just so much that you learn from the priest, from the deacons, if you have, vicars coming every once in a while, and even the bishop at times, and you just get to learn so much about the mass and its history and its roots and its potential and where it's going to go in the future. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I never thought, like I said, I never thought of that going in as a server, but you really learn why you do certain things. And it's hard to just pick out a few because
Right.
there's just so much. And honestly, the best way to learn about it is just to go out and become a server and see for yourself. So, yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with you there. And I mean, I guess a couple more of my pros would be like if you do it for as long as we did it, like every week, you get to learn about the mass, but also you get to learn about all the different items, the chalice, um, the pulpit. I mean, also, especially when you're first starting out, you don't really know the words for that. So when you learn them, you're like, oh, that's cool. That has a cool name, you know. And also, but for certain funerals, because we got asked a lot, can you serve, a funeral this week? And we said yeah, and that is really great for the family because they don't have to worry about it. The priest doesn't have to worry about it. He just asks us, and we're happy to be there. We help, because it could be a friend who has passed away. So it's a great way for that too. Um, but definitely, basically everything you said, I would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. And to kind of play off that with the funerals, incense. Um,
Yeah,
Servers definitely they play a key role in um, keeping the incense up, carrying it around, providing it when the priest needs it. And if servers weren't there, that'd be very hard to do for the
right.
priest. So
Especially at also Christmas time is like my favorite time to serve, just because it's Christmas and you got the incense, church is full, sing Christmas songs. That's probably my favorite time to be a server.
yes, that is exactly mine too. And then, like you said, the funerals comes in second, where you get to help those families out and you get to serve for them and
Right.
help put their
So,
loved one to rest.
yep. So, what are the do's and don'ts of being a sewer? I mean, we kind of talked about, I guess, some of the do's. I mean, you can probably go into more in detail what they do and everything, but what are the some don'ts that you shouldn't really do while you're sorting?
Yeah, I mean, it really varies by parish. I mean, how your church is set up. It depends on where your credence table is, even where the tabernacle is, how the altar's set up. It really, it even plays a difference where you sit. Um, uh, given where the priest is at. So it really varies by parish, but for us, you know, it was fairly easy. We were close to the priest. It was just a nice,
Right.
simple layout. But I think one thing that carries over across all the whole Catholic faith is just to be reverent. I mean, if you think about it, no one else gets to be up there besides the priest and or the deacon for the entirety of the mass. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Lector doesn't get to do that. The Eucharistic ministers don't. Sacristans don't. I mean, nobody except the priest and or the deacon, and then bishop and the pope. But like, you know, no one else gets to be up there serving the Lord for the entirety of the mass. So just be reverent because you're in the presence of the Lord. And if you just be reverent, you can really feel the presence of the Lord just to strengthen your relationship with him. And yeah, it's not only that, but you can really set a good example for your church as well, for visitors that come and go.
Right.
And yeah, and it helps with the flow of the mass as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're reverent, you're not causing any extra distractions. It's being up there it's an honor to serve. So truly
Right.
is. But oh gosh, some of the do's, I guess if you do mess it up, one thing you should do is just to play it off, let it go. I mean, how many times you learn as you go? That's what we learned when we served, isn't it? If you
Yep.
make a mistake, um,
That's what.
just let it go. I mean, because
Uh,
no one is really watching you.
right.
So if they do see you make that action, they might not know you messed up. So just carry on, try to correct it. If not, go on to the next action and just be reverent, smile. you know, it happens. We're all human. But that's one thing I would definitely do. If you mess up, it's okay. Um, just carry on and just keep the flow of the mass going.
Right. I mean, especially if you mess up on something it's a little difficult to remember. How should I win this? But like doing a holy day, if you have to do something different,
Mhm.
most people
Oh,
don't
sure.
know.
Yep.
Most people don't know you messed up because it's not, not like regular mass. If you forget to give the book to the priest during the last pray, most people, they know that. But on like a holy day or a big day, if you have something else that you gotta do, no one's gonna know. So just
And
play it off.
that's where you can just keep asking the priest,
Right.
beforehand. You can do research on it. Um, if you want, you can keep notes even. I know that's what we did, our priest would help us out with that. You
Yeah.
just in the missalette, he would write little notes for you to remember, like big days like, Easter,
Good Friday.
Good Friday
Yeah.
especially. Just he'd write little notes for us, or if you want to carry a note card with all the steps of the mass and what you should be doing, and just look at it. If you're not sure, just take it out, look at it, and you'll be fine.
Right. So, we know priests can be, I mean, the priests, they can be all the way up to like, the 70s, the deacon, they can be a deacon up to like 70 or 65, whatever. But can a soul be an adult?
Yeah, they absolutely can be. You see adult servers all the time. I mean,
Right.
just because you got confirmed or you graduated high school doesn't mean you can't still serve. But or just because you're 56, 50s, 60s, doesn't mean you can't serve. um like I said, it's an honor to be up there to serve. And I mean, if you want to serve, go for it. There's tons of adult servers. And maybe you want to help out with the church. Like, let's say you're not really into lecturing, or you're not really into choir, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be that, but if you want to
Right.
help out, serving is a good way just to help with that. So there's tons of adult servers. And if you stick with it from when you first start all the way until you close to like retirement. Um, I mean, hats off to you. That is crazy. That is awesome right there.
Right. So back down to the more like getting small kids involved.
Mm.
How can people, especially parents, is maybe the kids just received first communion and they're feeling good and but they only want to serve. How can people? I mean, and also I guess for older people who adults who have it sore but want to serve, how can they get to become a server?
So I guess simple thing here is just sign your kids up, just sign them up or sign up yourself. A lot of times there's server practices you can go to. Um, you can practice the mass. The priest is usually there. You can ask questions about how mass is conducted, why you do certain things the way you're this or that. And you can really learn how to become a server. Um, but yeah, if kids aren't really interested in it, but yet you still want them to serve, I mean, obviously it depends on the family, but sign them up because once you get into it and you start serving, at least for me, I truly loved it and I don't want to stop. I just want to keep serving. Um, but because it's a good way to keep the kids engaged because
Right.
a lot of times you go to mass and it for kids that can get a little boring. But if they're engaged and they're doing something, they're participating in an activity, they're bringing the book down to Father for prayers, they're setting the altar, whatever it is, this present time, they could be lighting the Advent wreath, beforehand. Could ask the priest about Advent, and it just goes on. And there's just can just branch off into so many topics that kids can learn. Um, but also another important aspect is our church never really got to do it that much when we were in it. But like his server trips.
Yeah.
Um, there's parishes where the servers will go on a trip, to a Twins game, say, or they'll go out and they'll, play paintball or whatever, and they'll just have a fun activity or outing, once or twice a year, and that's a good way to, fellowship with each other, get to know each other, just be blessed that you're in the able to serve the Lord. So it's a good way to get fun, but yeah, it's also a good way to participate in the mass too.
Right. That is. Like you said, I mean, you and I used to almost fight over who's gonna like the Advent calendar. I mean, wreath, excuse me, candle. Um, and when like both of our sisters and I saw for your first communion, I mean, we we went through the mass like 3, 4 times to make sure everyone know what everyone's gonna do. And so then at the mass we didn't mess up. So if you're starting out, you can go to the server training. You can read about it. But if you still need practice, you can practice at home. You can go to church and practice. So
And another good option, just go to mass and watch the servers.
right,
You know, that's a amazing way to learn right there. Go to mass and just watch the servers, watch what they do. And again, you're gonna mess up. That's all there is to it. Don't
yeah,
don't worry about that. I mean, but just go and you watch. And to about those Advent candles, it's a good thing that there's four of them, so we could light those. But yeah. Mhm.
It was never like about the third or fourth one. It was always about the first one. I mean, it was always, oh, evidence here. Who's gonna like it? Who's gonna hold the holy watch on the book? Who's gonna so? But
Very true. Yeah, good memories.
but so anything else you touch on about solving?
Oh gosh. I don't know. There's just so much. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, just go out, start serving, continue serving, get back into serving, whatever it is. Just I would strongly encourage just to participate in serving.
Okay,
Definitely.
well, that sounds really good. So but that's it for uh that's it. So thanks Sam for coming back on.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I hope to be on in the future as well, if you'll have
Oh,
me.
we'll have you back on for sure. That's Sam Sauber, everyone. My brother, we used to do, like I said, we sort of like seemed like every Saturday night for like 2 years at our parish. We love doing it. We, like you said, if you haven't sold in a while, want to get back in it like we have, yeah, we should get back in it. But yeah, trying to, if you have not already, highly recommend starting at your local parish and sort, because especially if you're there every week anyway, I'm sure they could will be happy to have you up there. And I know Jesus would as well. And God would. That's it for this week. God bless you. God willing, we'll see you next week at the table with another special guest here at Catholic Table Talk Podcast, where everything Catholic is always on the table.